Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. You know how this works, we go over the heroes that have got better or worse based on recent patches. Today we're going over role lock and what that will do to certain heroes, as well as, of course, the PTR patch. Just as a PSA before we get started, we're looking at heroes that have got better or worse as opposed to who are the most popular and who are the least popular. Let's use the example of Reinhardt being a winner because of the recent buffs he had with the passive that means that he doesn't get knocked about as much, whereas Orisa isn't necessarily a winner, even though she is most definitely the strongest main tank in the game currently. So it's not based on who is the strongest or who is the weakest, it's more who has got stronger, who has got weaker, just to be very clear on that. We're not going to be going over each of the heroes, but I do want to start with the winners and the hero that I just mentioned, Reinhardt. He's definitely a lot better, not only because of the passive changes that he had, meaning that he doesn't get punched around or CC'd half as much around the map, which after playing him, you definitely feel, and it feels great. But I also feel that, especially in competitive, Reinhardt's popularity is always going to be quite high because players feel like they need him. Like I said, Orisa is the strongest main tank currently with this bunker comp meta, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should play Orisa all of the time. I think Reinhardt is just a better pick up and play kind of hero and could go alongside Roadhog, could go alongside Zarya, Diva in a lot of different strategies. He's very versatile, I suppose, with where you can use him. And with a quality of life buff like he had, yeah, it's only positive. Another hero that I do consider a winner in this regard is Diva. She recently got her defense matrix fixed, and she's a hero that we highlighted earlier last week, basically saying how she isn't as good as she used to be, which I stand by. But again, with 222 added in, and Roadhog being a very difficult hero for a lot of people to play, I still think Diva is a good backup option to be able to play. My issue as somebody that tried to main Diva for a good portion of time, and she was one of my favourite heroes to play, was that if I went into competitive without a role queue, I'd lock Diva, but then we wouldn't get another tank. So it kind of forced me to go like Winston or Reinhardt or Orisa. More often than not, you can't really just solo tank Diva in a lot of cases. So at least now with role queue, you know that you're getting matched up with another tank. A Diva, much like Reinhardt, is very versatile in the fact that you can run Diva with a Reinhardt, you can run Diva with an Orisa, most definitely with a Winston, but also, of course, Wreckingball too. I wouldn't say she's amazing to play right now, I still think Roadhog is the best option, but I do feel that these changes will have a positive impact on Diva. Now to go over the supports that are winners, I do think Brigitte is actually on this list. Now I haven't played a huge amount of Brigitte just yet, but I do feel that these changes do affect her more positively than negatively. She's had some things impacted in a pretty serious way, such as her shield. Her armor pack's been a lot worse on average, but the way that she plays out now means that she can do surprisingly a lot of good healing. On average, if you're playing her well, you can get 1,000 healing done a minute. And certainly on defense, I found that Brigitte is a very good hero to be able to protect your backline, especially with the rise of flankers like Genji and Tracer now with roll-up being added in. You can still make Brigitte work against those heroes, and you can still do quite a lot, surprisingly. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks for people to realize how good she is or whether she's good at all, but based on my initial experiences playing her, I'd say that she's good, and considering that she goes into this 2-2-2 lock, she's in a better position now than she would have been otherwise. The biggest winner I'd say out of all of this is going to be Mercy for the supports. Not only do you have the popularity of snipers going up, which we'll go over very shortly, but she's also just a solid, versatile healer that you can use a good portion of the time with a multitude of different strategies. Defensive bunker comps, even dive if you have a Pharah or the snipers like I said. One thing that I also haven't really mentioned yet was the overall nerf to ultimates with the charge rate going up by 12%. Mercy I don't think is really impacted by this change all that much. She can get her ultimate fairly quickly, but even then she's not that reliant on it in comparison to like Zenyatta or Lucio that have some pretty impactful ultimates that have of course been nerfed. So Mercy is the queen support of the meta right now. We've had her slowly climb with the rise of bunker and snipers, but I think these changes just solidifies that for her mostly. Third is Moira. The weird buff that she got is definitely very impactful, as we saw from Sleepy's video recently, which I'm showing you on screen. The amount of stuff that she can get out of, been stunned, earth shattered, It's ridiculous with how much she can get away with, so no doubt this change is a positive one for her. I'm just surprised that Blizzard even put it in. I'm not necessarily saying that Moira didn't need a buff of that capacity. I think she definitely needed a little bit of help from Blizzard, but this is a very weird change and I'm not really sure the direction that they wanted to go with it, to be honest. It's crazy. So she's definitely a winner for that buff alone. But also, if flankers come back like Genji Tracer, Moira isn't too bad against them. For the DPS winners, Widowmaker is of course on that list. This just suits her perfectly. She is a sniper, she can instantly kill people, has really good synergy with the most popular tanks and supports right now, but also she's not overly reliant on her ultimate as well. It's a really strong ultimate in Foresight, but it's not as if this ult nerf that everybody got is really impacting her in a big way. Nothing really affects her at all. Maybe the rise of Dive to an extent, but I still think Widowmaker is the strongest hero in the game right now, and I'm sure most of you wouldn't necessarily disagree. Hanzo is still a winner, even though he was nerfed on the PTR, getting one less Storm Arrow. But the reason why he's still a winner is we did a video with Agi a couple of weeks ago now at this point, where he said they could even remove Storm Arrow as an ability and Hanzo would still be super strong. So based on the information that Agi provided us there, I'm inclined to agree, and Hanzo is still a really good hero to play right now. And also has a strong ultimate, but not massively so that the nerfs really affect him there. The only nerf that Tracer ever got has been reverted and she's back to a pretty decent spot right now. Rollock just means that she doesn't need to play into any form of Goats comp anymore, but even then Brigitta's been reworked in a way that you can still work around how strong she is. Not saying that Tracer can now run rings around Brigitta, you still need to be careful of her, but I think this has opened up a lot of doors for Tracer. To a lesser extent Genji, especially with Dragon Blade, so he's maybe a winner on this list, but Tracer is most definitely. I was very much on the fence about including Symetra as a winner because her teleport had some pretty substantial changes, with it having infinite duration and the range of it being made a little bit longer. But because of Rollock, it's very much a give and take because there's so many other better DPS heroes to run right now than Symetra. But like I said, very much up in the air, these changes could have a significant impact to how Symetra is played in the future. We'll have to double check on that one really. But that's my list of major winners. I do feel that some of the heroes have gone up in popularity. You know, heroes like Genji and Doomfist might be played a lot more, but these changes aren't as impactful as it is for the heroes that we've highlighted on screen. If you disagree with any of those winners, I wanted to add a hero in particular, do let me know in the comments below. We'll no doubt see what happens over the next couple of weeks, with players getting used to these changes. Now let's talk about the losers. I actually wanted to start with the supports first because they all tie into each other with why they're on this list. And that's Lucio and Zenyatta, but I also want to add Zarya as a tank on the losers list for the same reasons. Not only do all of these heroes feel the impact of the ultimate nerf, Transcendent, Sound Barrier, and Graviton are all high impact ultimates that these heroes will be getting less because of these changes. But also, all three of these heroes were nerfed sometime in March, I believe it was, because of their synergy in Goats. Zenyatta's Orb of Discord was reduced in its effects down to 25%. Lucio's Speed Song had the effects lowered down 10%, with Amp It Up being reduced too. The range of Lucio's aura as well. And Zarya's Particle Cannon now had a fire radius reduced by a couple of meters depending on the energy level. All of these changes came in to break down the synergy that happened between these heroes in Goats comp, with how these heroes work together as part of a team. Now that Goats comp is no longer a thing, these changes just aren't necessary, and I saw people on the subreddit bring up the fact that now Blizzard can safely revert these changes in order to make these heroes a little bit better now that Goats comp is impossible, and I 100% agree. So these heroes are on that losers list because of that, and also the impact of their ultimates being reduced because they're just going to get less of them. Not to mention that both in the tank and support category, there's so many better options right now than both of these heroes. Even Brigitta's looking to have a more positive influence on the game than Lucio and Zenyatta. At least right now, Zenyatta is still a solid pick to run, but if there's more snipers and if there's more dive, it might be a little bit dicey for him currently. Wreckingball is also another loser on this list, even though he was buffed. Just as a recap, they increased the projectile speed of his mines from 10 to 13, causing the mines to spread out more. According to Blizzard, this makes it easier to create a wider minefield, but the problem is that players could even sneak between the gaps of the mines as you're seeing on screen. The gap's so big, you don't need to worry about it as much. I would keep the other buff, which was reducing the deploy time down to 0.1 second, meaning that it's a lot faster. But I do think that the projectile speed increase has had a negative effect on the hero, and it's made Wreckingball's minefield a lot weaker. So with any luck, Blizzard decide to revert this one, but based off my experience playing him and the reaction of a lot of people on the forums, I would agree with them that this change hasn't had a positive effect on the hero, thus him being a loser. Finally, for DPS, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's many losers on this list. The fact that DPS are now picked, in comparison to GOAT's comp where there weren't many DPS being picked, I wouldn't necessarily say that any heroes go down. Even heroes like Bastion, Torbjorn, Symetra could be played a lot more just with the state of the game being as it is. The only one that I'm pretty sure would go down in pick rate and has been negatively impacted by these changes is Sombra. Not only was she nerfed on the PTR with her hack duration being reduced and the activation time of EMP going up, that obviously makes her a lot weaker, but now that she's not being played against GOATs, as she's a really good counter to it, you're not going to use her as much. I still think she has a place in the game. In the right hands, she could be a very strong hero, but I'm pretty sure all Sombra players would admit that with the lack of GOATs to try and counter and these changes, she is worse now than she is on the live servers currently. But as you're seeing on screen, that is my full list of winners and losers. As I said, if you disagree, which is 100% fine, everything is still up in the air at the moment. We haven't really worked out these changes completely. If you disagree or agree, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching though. Really appreciate you watching till the end. Take care. We'll see you next time.